Hello everyone, my name is Dakoba and welcome back to Satisfactory. We are here in a brand new world in Satisfactory Update 8 and we are starting on a brand new playthrough of the Satisfactory game. Now in today's episode we're going to be building the perfect starter factory that's going to contain all of our early game production lines. It's going to have production lines for iron plates, iron rods, screws, wire, cable, and concrete. And it's going to get us through the first 3 milestones of the game. Now, the first step whenever you enter a new Satisfactory world is to track down some iron. So we're going to use our resource scanner to find some iron. It looks like we've got some a couple hundred meters to the north, a couple hundred meters to the south, and a few hundred meters to the west. We'll go ahead and head north. We'll grab up whatever items we can on the way for food, for healing items, as well as resources for fuel that we'll use to power our factory as we head north towards these iron veins. Go ahead and equip our Xeno Zapper because we are going almost certainly to encounter some enemies, and I think, yep, there's one right there. Now this is a hog guarding these iron veins, so we're going to wait for him to charge, and then we're going to back up and sidestep as he charges us. Wait for him to settle down, and back up. Oh, I'm in sideways. And as they charge in that way, you can sort of sneak in for the hit and hit them as they run by. And they go down pretty easily. All right, and with those iron nodes cleared out, let's go ahead and set up our hub. We'll go ahead and put our power generators on this side so we can access those easily. And let's drop our miners. Now I'm going to have these miners pointing away and then use the intermediary space right there for our 2 smelters. And that way we can have our constructors sort of right next to each other, right up here with easy access. Let's go ahead and set these up. There. Go. And then we need to craft some biomass in order to get our generators turned on. Last but not least, let's go ahead and set the recipes on these to produce iron rods and iron plates for us. All right, and with our basic iron production lines up and running, let's go ahead and get a starting production line up on copper. I happen to see a node up there, but let's scan just to make sure there's nothing else nearby. And we can see that one there. And it doesn't look like there's anything else close. Yeah, a few hundred meters in a couple different directions, but we'll go ahead and take this close one. There's another hog up here. Now, one of the great features that they added in Update 8 was the ability to turn off creature aggression. If you go into your options menu under gameplay, the very first option there is listed as creature hostility, which you can change to either be passive, in which the creatures simply don't fight back at all, or retaliate, where they'll fight back if you attack them, or default, where they're aggressive. And we may play around with that throughout the series. Personally, I like building factories. I enjoy the combat aspect of the game, but that's not my main goal. That's not why I play. And particularly for a series like this, where I really want to focus on building the factories, I may turn off creature hostility just to make that flow a little bit more smoothly. Ultimately, you get to play the game how you want, and I think that's one of the best things about Satisfactory. All right, now we have one more basic resource to make use of, and that is limestone, which is used for concrete. A quick scan shows a little bit to the south and some more to the west. We will definitely be making use of that in time, as that is something we're going to need a lot of. But before we build anything, if we take a look at our power grid, we are using 39 megawatts of power. We only have the production capacity for 40 megawatts, which means if we build any more buildings that use power, we're going to suffer a break and have everything shut down. So we need to go ahead and set a biomass burner. Unfortunately, the biomass burner requires the components that we've already set up, the copper wire, the iron rods, and iron plates. I've had those running for a few minutes, so we can go ahead and set that up just there, and then take some of the grass that we've crafted, turn that into biomass, just like that, and drop that in, just like so. And now we are producing 70 megawatts of power. We should be fine. We are going to need to refuel these burners with biomass as we go, but we should have no problem with setting up 1 or 2 more small factories in the meantime. All right, now we've set up our miner on top of our limestone node down there, and we are running the conveyor all the way up here so that we don't have to jump down every time. So let's go ahead and get these powered. run this on up over by our hub there, and we will get that plugged in, but let's go ahead and set our recipe for concrete here. There we go. All right, with those 3 production lines up and running, we can go ahead and babysit these and make sure that we are gathering the resources out of them as we need to in order to continually fill up on resources. And if we take a look at our hub terminal, which is where we progress, we can see that the milestones we need are going to require some concrete, which is going to take us a little while to gather, as well as some iron plates and iron rods, which we already have. But we're going to need a bunch more for the next milestone, as well as some wiring, which we're also producing. And then the field research milestone is actually going to require screws as well, which are made from iron rods. So we'll need to take some of those iron rods and do that. But I think we're going to do that after we gather logistics and base building and set up our initial factory, just so we can actually set up a proper production line for screws once we unlock splitters and mergers. All right, our factories have been running for a while, and we have also set up an additional concrete factory down there just to speed things along a little bit, because concrete was coming in a little slowly. But things have been running for a while now, and we have plenty of resources to go ahead and fill in these milestones. So we're going to go ahead and select that milestone and fill it in. Now, here's a trick for you. If we hit the button now, we can send this milestone, and we'll have to wait 2 minutes to send the next one. But if we go back to select milestone and choose the next one, we can actually fill that one in too. Go ahead and sort our inventory, keep things neat. And if we send this one, then we can reopen the hub terminal, select that first milestone,
conveyor belts can the product
and send it straight away. And with both of those milestones away, we are now able to go ahead and start on the construction of our starter factory. But I think we are going to do that one in the form of a time lapse. Let's get into it. All right, and that is a starter factory all complete. Let's go through it. We've set up our hub next to our power array. Now we are using 8 biomass burners here, and I've set up a storage container for all of the biomass. We may end up doing a small biomass factory to help produce that and optimize that here in one of the coming episodes, but that is our starting point right there. And that is going to power everything we need for the next few episodes until we unlock coal power, or we may decide to expand this at some point if we end up going bigger with it. Next up, we have our iron production. We have our 2 iron miners that are feeding their production lines directly into a conveyor belt and an array of smelters. Now, unfortunately, the mining nodes don't always line up with the foundation grid, and in particular, these foundations are aligned to the global grid. So I don't really have a whole lot of flexibility in what direction the foundations are facing, because I want them to be on that global grid so that we can, connect up factories later if we choose to and use the same grid for them. But the iron is going into smelters. Only 2 of those smelters are active. We can take those other 2 smelters down now. I wanted to leave those in to demonstrate that we have the capacity to expand them. Right now, these 2 iron miners are on impure nodes. They're pulling 30 iron ore out of the ground a piece, so that's 60 total. However, as we progress through the game, we're going to have the opportunity to expand the production of these miners, either through overclocking or through the construction of Mark II miners later on in the game. Those will produce more materials, and so we may want to come through and be able to expand the factory. So we built the factory with the space for expansion in mind. We can expand not just to 2 additional smelters, but to several more smelters, as well as expanding our production lines. Speaking of production, we have 3 production lines here. Our first is producing iron plates, our second is producing iron rods, and our third is producing iron rods and then screws. All of these together use 55 iron ingots per minute. We're producing 60 iron ingots per minute, so at some point these will back up. They've been running just fine for now though, and we may come through once we unlock overclocking and underclocking in order to fine-tune some of these machines to make a little bit better use of our power. Over here on the other side of our base, we have our copper factory. We have a single copper miner producing 60 copper per minute. That's being fed into 2 smelters to make full use of that, and then that is being sent into 2 production lines. So one of our production lines is producing wire, the other is producing wire, and then turning that wire into cable. So we have a nice stockpile of both of those resources. Well, it looks like one of the hogs has respawned. That's interesting. Now, one of the things about this is that each of these wire producers only uses 15 copper bars per minute, and we are producing 60 per minute. So we're using 30 and we're producing 60. That is by design. Fairly soon, we're going to unlock another copper product in copper sheets that we'll want to be able to produce in this factory. And so we are expanding, we are leaving room for that. In the interim, we may actually take additional constructors and produce more cabling for use in the Awesome Shop. And we'll get into that when we unlock the Awesome Shop at a later time. And the last part of our factory is our concrete construction, which is again pulling limestone from down below the cliff's edge, sending it up through a conveyor and across over to a couple of constructors here on the main floor, where we can then collect that from a chest. And I think that'll do it for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Leave a like if you have, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is Ben Dakoba, and I hope you have an efficient day. I'll see you soon.